Hi everyone. This video is for all those who are enrolled in IGNOU's MA Psychology course, have completed year 1 and are now on the threshold of selecting a specialization for their year 2. Now, as we all know that there are three specializations to choose from and there is a lot of information on the internet, but there is also a lot of contradictory information and I found that some of the information can be incomplete or misleading. Through this video, I am sharing a perspective on how to select a specialization for your second year. So, you may have heard that clinical psychology students are eligible to practice counseling, and you can also opt to practice industrial organization psychology. Secondly, if you do counseling, then you cannot do anything in the field of clinical psychology, although you can still opt for industrial organizational psychology in practice. And it seems as if industrial organization is the third tier. If you choose that, then you can never go into counseling or clinical psychology. So, the first thing to understand is that there is no hierarchy of specializations, they are all very different specializations. Let's try to understand it with the help of an example. If you take clinical psychology, you will be reading about behavioral therapy. If you take counseling, you will be reading about behavior modification. If you take IO psychology, you will be reading about organizational behavior. So, all branches will deal with behavior but in their own way. Now, if you are not going to be a clinical psychologist, then why do you want to read about a therapy, a behavioral therapy that you are not going to be able to practice? If you are going to be a counselor, then you might as well learn more about how to modify a behavior. If you want a job in the HR department, then you might as well understand how the organization works, how people behave in an organizational setting. You need to spend a year at least studying these subjects. So you might as well study that part of psychology which is going to be relevant in your career. Now, a little bit about industrial and organizational psychology. You may feel that it doesn't have enough of psychology in it and there's a lot of HR in it. So, look at it this way. In year 1, you have studied about group and crowd psychology. You have understood that when individuals gather in a group or in a crowd, the behavior is modified. In other words, crowd has a psychology of its own, a group has a psychology of its own. And it was worthwhile studying those aspects of psychology in addition to individual psychology. Similarly, when people come together to form an organization, a corporation, then also their behavior is modified. Just like crowd, group, organizations also have their own psychology. So, learning about organizational behavior and organizational design is also an aspect of psychology. What matters is whether it is of interest to you or not. Yes, there is one whole block which deals with the functionings of an HR department, and that aspect is not directly related to psychology. However, let's look at it from a career point of view. If you study psychology and also learn about the functionings of an HR department, then this course, MA Psychology, can become a bridge to a corporate career in the HR department. You can also get into training, coaching, consulting, and counseling within corporate context. It is worthwhile learning about these aspects of the HR department if that is your career goal. Speaking of career goals, I'm also hearing that most of the people who want to do counseling are talking about counseling in school context. Now just imagine how many schools are there in a city versus how many companies, organizations or startups are there in a city. So if you are purely looking at this course from a career point of view, then remember that clinical psychology branch is not going to directly lead into a career because you need to follow it up with MPhil, which is a very serious course of study, and you need to do internship in a hospital environment to be able to get to a license. Let's also think about project versus applied positive psychology. For that, I would like you to think about the time you spent in completing the assignments, practicals, studying for the theory exam, and then sitting for the theory exam, right? That's the amount of time that you have spent in completing year one of this course. Now, in year two, there are fewer subjects, there are three subjects. So, in that sense, your workload is reduced by half. The remaining half is filled by internship, which is 240 hours, and a project. The internship and the project put together are going to take more time and effort than studying three subjects. So, if you are doing instead of six subjects, three subjects plus internship plus project, your net investment is going to be greater. Now consider how easy or how difficult it was for you to put in the time for year one. And if you want to do a project, then be prepared to invest slightly more time and effort in year two. If it was difficult for you to spend that kind of a time doing only theory course in year one, then imagine how much more difficult it will be for you to do the project, which is not just theory but also involves field work and interacting with a lot of people. One thing which a lot of people are saying about the project, that it is going to help you in PhD. Yes, it will give you a practice of doing it. However, PhD is not a 1 year or even a 2 year commitment. It's a commitment of 4 to 5 years or longer. You get plenty of time to learn how to do research, get guidance on being a good researcher, and then successfully complete your research. 6 to 8 months of doing research under IGNOU is definitely going to help you, but not doing it is not going to prevent you from doing a PhD if you want to do that later on. What is more important is that you are able to complete your MA course. That's the biggest eligibility criteria that you need to think about. Finally, the most important factor to consider is your own curiosity. Is there a problem? Is there a question? Is there a topic on which you are so curious that you are driven to find the answer or find the solution? And the best way to do that is to do a primary research in that. Now, if you do not have any such deep curiosity or a deep question in your mind, then it is going to be extremely difficult for you to carry the whole research project from conceptualization to final report and doing the viva. If you pick up a project just for the sake of it, just as a course requirement, and you seek out a good project topic on some websites, etc., then it is going to be an imposed idea rather than your own idea. I have done research at master's level once, and it required a lot of self motivation, a lot of drive for me to take it to completion. There were times when it gets really boring, there are times when it gets so vast that it can overwhelm you. So, you must be deeply committed to the topic, and that commitment is going to help you see the project through. And also, a quick word on applied positive psychology. It's an extremely interesting subject. It is highly relevant. You don't even have to be a practicing psychologist to benefit from it. When you go through the contents, you will find that these are the things which have application in day to day life and improving our quality of life. So, definitely give it a shot. And the last point I would like to make is that no stream is going to have topics which are entirely applicable to you or entirely of interest to you. They each have some topics which you might find boring or irrelevant, and the other streams will have some topics that are of interest to you. So you don't have to pick a stream just because a few subjects are interesting to you or not interesting to you. If you decide to take industrial organization, nobody is stopping you from reading the chapters in clinical psychology course which are of interest to you or of relevance to you. I hope this was helpful. Wish you all the best for your second year and beyond.